Living tour, and today we're the Peruvian shaman, Don Oscar. Hello.
Hello, Lilou.
What a delight to spend this moment with you.
It is truly a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to exploring the various dimensions of visionary service work in the world with you.
Very nice. I've heard that you're a Peruvian shaman, and it's extraordinary how, one thing leads to another, and how life is all working for the highest good, especially when you have an open heart and living on an authentic path. And it's interesting how I saw your work, and something there draw me to just interview you. I had to be here.
Well, thank you. Whatever works to share the wisdom, I'm all for it.
So we're sitting just in front of your altar here. Can you tell us a bit about this space, first of all?
Certainly. Yet I'd like to clarify that I'm not a Peruvian shaman. I'm a curandero, kamasquero, which is a form of shamanism. Yet, the only shamans I know are the Aboriginal tribal shamans that have not had contact with the Western world. The other types of shamanism that has adapted to the Western world in our country, in Peru, it's called curanderismo. So I wish I could call myself a shaman, yet the only shamans I know are dead, unfortunately. And although I am dead, I'm still alive. You know how that works. So back to this altar here.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because that's a big point. A lot of people pretend to be shamans, but they're not really.
I'm a practitioner of cross-cultural shamanism, specifically derived from Peruvian paqokuna, which is southeastern Andean mystical tradition, and northern coastal kamasqa curanderismo, which is a more mestizo approach, where it developed 2,800 years ago, yet it became persecuted when the Spanish conquest came, and there's been a resurgence and a revival of it over the last 25, 30 years for many reasons. And so those two sources of my own apprenticeship were fused together into what this altar is, which is called a Pachacuti Mesa Banco Maestro, or altar mayor. And what a banco maestro means is that it is a repository, a master repository of sacred forces and powers that reside within creation itself, and establishing an intimate relationship with these through the various millennial ritual practices that have been handed down over generations. A very reciprocal sacred relationship is established, and therefore one can engage if your motive is pure and your intention clear. You can engage the support of these seen and unseen allies. You know how this works. You must have interviewed various shamanic practitioners on your earth walk.
I have, but each shaman seems to have its own way of doing it. Like a Peruvian, I was really interested to see what was the difference between a Peruvian shaman and other types of shamanism. And you're connecting with the non-physical realm.
Well, most shamanism does involve contact with visionary dimensions that are not materialized yet. Yet, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I may say, just like with science fiction, who would have dreamt that we would be going to the moon? But people wrote about it. Jules Verne, typical classic example. What we can imagine as fantasy really is a preparation, a warm-up to manifest or basically blossom a new reality for humankind.
I love that.
So what is not seen now, what is considered only accessible through shamanic non-ordinary states of consciousness, I would say, by the end of this century, once again, two-leggeds will be walking hand in hand with their allies from the stars and their ancestors from from other worlds. So nothing wrong with that. So I already walk with them.
So you're saying you as a shaman, you see that, you see them, you see their presence, you see their support that they're providing us in this lifetime for us to accomplish our mission and purposes. Why is this non-physical world here and present?
I choose to embrace a lifeway that involves a diverse and full experience of both spiritual and material worlds. Yeah. That's who I am as a passerby. Forget my apprenticeship in kamasqa, curanderismo, or paqokuna, or shamanism. Before I even did any formal apprenticeship, I was always very aware of non-ordinary realities. In my dream time, in states of spontaneous trance that used to happen to me, and during those breakthroughs, I found myself in other planes of existence, which had their own denizens, their own inhabitants, and most of them had the same cultural forms that you hear about in the spiritual epics of the past, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Mahabharata, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Specifically, a lot of these deities, zoomorphic and anthropomorphic, greeted me when I thrust into these other planes of existence. So I feel that there's a collective unconscious, to use Jung's term, that informs any human, that amplifies their own awareness. So it's really important to understand that these are not literal beings, but you can make them literal beings if necessary to fulfill your vocation, your service mission in the world. Yet they really are a part of yourself. I'm a Gnostic in that sense. I believe that even the absolute, the ultimate, is whatever you want to call it, God, creator, is oneself, capital S. And so anything that is part of that continuum of being, angels, archangels, kingdoms, principalities, whatever you want to call it in Western Hermetic tradition, or shamanic allies, power animals from more indigenous traditions, are basically within you, within that plethora of possibility.
I love what you said about remembering. So we're all one. We're just remembering that we're members of this one tribe.
Exactly. Exactly. The remembering is much easier than it seems. It's the act of living in a way that exemplifies a lifestyle that is inspirational to others, that is much more difficult. You can remember, you get translated into getting up in the morning and taking care of your children and making sure that, you know, there's enough compassion in your heart. It's not as easy as you'd think. Am I making any sense? You know, so it's a daily practice. It's a daily sadhana. To remember is something that just doesn't happen, and the tribe's back on the earth. You know, and there's many prophecies about our rainbow tribes and our shining ones and all of that. And
so, are we at this moment in time where we're remembering?
Oh, there's an extraordinary, especially in developed nations of the world, there's an extraordinary rediscovery of ancestral millennial lifeways, of perennial philosophies, and the assimilation of them in one's practice and one's relationships. It's accelerated extraordinarily, especially since 1987 when the harmonic convergence took place. And they've been punctuated leaps in this awareness, always tempered by major global cataclysmic events such as what just happened, the tragedy in Japan and others, or other social unrest. So we progress, and then all of a sudden the consciousness is taken away from that and placed into other things. So it's a constant dance of polar opposition. Yet without that tension between opposites, there would be no breakthrough. Unfortunately, a breakdown is a breakthrough, you know, to use that cliche. So what I see happening is that we are completing a world era, and it's not going to be December 21st, 2012. It's a process. That's good. That's positive in terms of a sociological expectation that a billion people probably are aware of that date. So they're going to do something that's going to be unifying in purpose around the globe, and that always is good medicine for the planet. After that medicine is offered by that unification, sustaining a unified, compassionate, cooperative, planetary family that could restore sacred trust among themselves and the natural world is a whole other thing. And with almost 7 billion people on this planet, it's no easy task. So as we complete this world cycle, this equinoctial procession, there's a possibility of a great turning, as Joanna Macy calls it, a major shift. And we must be prepared for that, because all great shifts are very unpredictable and sometimes very demanding of one's own sense of security and
it
safety.
Shakes everything up, doesn't it?
It does. So little shake-ups every day are good to practice. As Buckminster Fuller said, if you want to know the future, invent it. And that's
best ways to invent it. Imagination.
So that's really what we have at our disposal, is extraordinary imagination and the capability to remember among solid groups of individuals that are willing to let go of personal needs and work for the collective. And that's being seen all around the planet.
And you're participating in that? You're creating secret communities all around the world?
Yes, as a result of the Pachacuti Mesa tradition that I was bequeathed by my mentor, Don Celso Rojas Palomino, in 1982, before his passing, to bring our traditions from Peru to the northern regions and teach them to the people here, because our own people had been denying them, discrediting them, misusing them. And he was a very wise elder. He said, if you teach the gringos how to work a mesa, like curanderos mesa, and they come to our country, and our own people, the grandchildren, my grandchildren, who are forgetting these arts, see these gringos, the deep reverence with which they do things, because he knew that when a gringo does something, they're going to do it right. It was his idea. So he said, then they're going to start valuing their traditions again, and we will not lose these arts. And he's right. And it's not only the Pachacuti Mesa, but various other shamanic disciplines from the Americas specifically that there's a resurgence of, that has created a global awareness of the importance of preserving these ancient ways.
And that's what you do. You have a foundation, right? The
Heart of the Healer Foundation, yes. The Heart of the Healer Foundation was established to preserve indigenous wisdom, which is a broad statement, and also to restore our earth. And by that we mean that to safeguard the vast storehouses of knowledge, of medicines and social management and earth-honoring practices of our ancestors, of our indigenous populations, we must also hand in hand protect their tribal lands, their sacred lands that are under great threat of disappearing. And hence the foundation was established to bring these indigenous elders and wisdom keepers together with like-hearted social scientists, natural scientists, and environmentalists, social justice activists, and have them collaborate in creating a new model and apply that social equity collaboration to developing right livelihood that has to do with protecting the biodiversity of the southeastern Amazon basin in Madre de Dios. So we have various projects there. We have concessions that we have that we lease from the government, plus we have our own parcel of land where we're building Sipapu, which is a Hopi name for the place of emergence and return. And yet, although it's Hopi, it has to do with, honoring the prophecy of Condor and Eagle. That's why we gave it a Hopi name in South America. So in the Tambopata River or La Torre River in the Amazon, we're building an off-the-grid, totally self-sustainable, renewable energy sourced World Wisdom Convergence Center, where people will come and be able to spend 3 months at a time learning what the Amazon wants to teach them, bringing it back to their communities, hopefully experiencing deep personal restoration, because a lot of the activists in environmental and social justice movements are, hanging on by a thread. They're burnt out. So we want to make this a place where they can restore themselves, learn from the indigenous populations how to live in balance with the earth, partake of various healing ceremonies, commune with the extraordinary wisdom of the plant kingdom of the rainforest, and come back refreshed to the modern world where their work is needed, and provide right livelihood to the local indigenous communities at the same time. So that's what the foundation is doing.
Yeah. So what would you say the indigenous people, what is their vision of the new world? I mean, what do they want to bring to this, to us? That it's hard for them, like it could be a challenge for them to communicate to us, because sometimes it seems like there is different communication going on, and it's hard for both worlds to communicate, in a very peaceful way. There's a lot of rebellions that's been happening recently from indigenous people, so it's hard to understand, from the outside.
Yeah,
Could you enlighten us on this?
It's a complicated situation, Lilou. As you well know, there's no such thing as an indigenous person anymore when it refers to somebody who is pure native bloodline. The best term to use for truly indigenous people would be Aboriginal. Okay, and those Aboriginal peoples are mostly live in voluntary isolation, or aislamiento voluntario, where they have been designated some protected areas that are their sacred lands, and they're in the bush or they're in very remote areas and have no contact. Indigenous right now, in Peru at least, and in many parts of the world, means mixed blood. So case in point, in the rainforest where we have most of our projects, in the community of Infierno and La Torre, most of the people have come from Cusco, from the highlands, generations ago, intermarried with the local Eseja and Jarambut Aboriginal peoples, and established these communities. That during the agricultural revolution in 1970, the government gave them their lands, and so now they own these large parcels of protected rainforest, yet they are mixed blood. Their vision of what is happening on the world is very much like ours. It's not that different. They want good education for their children. They want to be able to put nourishing food on their table. They want to be able to have love in their life, and they want to be able to feel fulfilled, and that their earth walk has meaning. And so those basic human needs are shared commonly, even by those people that do have a direct bloodline with our millennial cultures of Peru. And I found that to be true on the reses here in Turtle Island. You know, most of the elders that I have had the honor to sit around council fire with speak of the same things. Far in between do you hear the true revelation of prophecy and the true sharing of the visions that these elders have had since many moons ago. Most of them, when they are shared, are not too pretty, and they're not too heartening, because a lot of them are coming true. There's a major falling apart of the world. And so they prefer not to put that out there, yet they pray about it. So if I would say, if there's one common thing among the tribal nations and Aboriginal peoples that are rapidly disappearing on this planet, true members of a tribal community, is that they are listened to, that they have great wisdom and guidance to share the world powers, and that it's time for them to have a place at the table, and to be asked whether to waste as much time as we do right now legislating some inane, you know, regulatory rules of impact only to a small minority, of benefit to only a small minority.
So what are their core messages right now? What is the wisdom that they want to share with us that we need to hear at this point?
I am going to speak from my own heart as a sanctioned representative of the kamasqa tradition of Peru and as a paqokuna initiate. In other words, northern coastal shamanic peoples and southeastern highland shamanic peoples are who I can speak for. I cannot speak for anyone else. And both of them share the notion of the Tari Paipacha, T-A-R-I-P-A-Y-P-A-C-H-A, and it means the era of re-encounter, where people from all walks of life, colors, and ideological persuasions will be coming together at specific areas already designated on the planet and break bread together. And that means that they will be sharing their food, their mihuna, their mihushanku together. And at the table of what they call the Pachayachachik, the world teacher. Now the world teacher is no Messiah or no Sananda Ra or Cosmic Christ or any Maitreya or Buddhist bodhisattvic figure. On the contrary, it is really the God within, the gnosis. So the world teacher is the actual breaking of the bread, learning how to go ahead and distribute equal portions of whatever there is on this planet together in prayer in one same place. That's what their message is. If we learn to do that simple thing, everything else will become easier. So I'm working arduously to sustain the Taripaipacha, the era of re-encounter. It comes after the Aukapacha, which is the Kali Yuga, or the Iron era, and it's a transition phase. Yeah.
So what can we do in our own lives today, each of us, or each person listening to this, what can we do?
Teach love by the way you live. Celebrate life as a sacred gift. Have fun. Perform graceful rituals of reverence for nature, befitting 7 generations. Ritual and ceremony is a natural part of life. Every life form within the great sacred hoop has ritualized patterns, behaviors. It is the foundation of morphic resonance, right? So if you mirror or model your rituals and your ceremonies according to the fundamental patterns, cycles, pulses and rhythms of the natural world, for instance, equinoxes, solstices, full moons, if you start to harmonize your life and honor these moments of convergence between earth and sky, what you're doing is you're bridging the above and the below. And you're walking the path of the Hierophant, of, you know, the bridge, which is much needed on this earth. So think of your rituals as your, think of the temple site or this altar or any, you know, sacred natural landscape shrine that you go to a pilgrimage to as the hardware. And your rituals would be the software, right? So it's important that the rituals that you use reflect the highest, most elevated program. And you're the programmer, right? So when we, and I use this technological analogy because we live in this day and age, yet our ancient ones knew by configuring their temples and their ceremonial spaces specifically with mathematical precision and sacred geometrical patterning to mimic and mirror the beauty and grace of creation, that they were always going to be able to engage our weather gods and manage sometimes chaotic conditions with ease. And so that's what I would suggest. Teach love by the way you live, meaning if you don't feel any love and heartfelt engagement, don't waste your time doing it.
That's a very good point right there.
When it comes to to performing rituals or ceremonies, you're going to have to do a lot of things you don't feel juice for to, you know, pay your bills and put bread on the table and take care of your kids. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that if you are going to be walking the red road, and you are going to be offering your prayers as medicine for the world, you must cry them. You must. It's a waste of time to do anything just by rote. Mm-hmm. Okay, they must issue forth from within the deepest part of your soul. And that's what means teach love by the way you live, because it's a labor of love. Mm-hmm. You know? And if you do that, then your sphere of influence in the world will become larger and larger and larger, and people will start to understand that they're safe and feel secure and nurtured in your presence, in the presence of the hoop that you have, and our family will grow. And within that family, we celebrate life as sacred. And by sacred, we mean purposeful.
And as a gift.
Purposeful. A purposeful gift. Mm. You know. And so that's what I would feel is a good message to put to the world.
Yeah. And what makes an altar? Is there a few elements, or is there something? Because you have a huge one here, but mm-hmm. not everybody has the space, or when you're traveling, right. Or either when you're traveling. That's how do you have altars, and what makes an altar, mm-hmm. and how do you do it in a home space?
Okay. Well,
I'll show it further on camera. Later,
yeah. You see those little figurines with the little bands with their first names on them?
Yeah.
Okay, those are a small sampling of the brothers and sisters that have apprenticed with me since 1986. Some of them since then, when I first revealed the Pachacuti Mesa here in the Western world, that are what I call adepts, Intikiaruna. Adepts, meaning solar lunar beings. They have integrated the male and female aspects, all dualities, the above and the below, the within and the without, the self and the other. All the dualities that are trying to take us out of the center, these individuals are daily dissolving those divisions, those separations. So they are all what Pachacuti Mesa carriers. Pacha, world. Really, Pacha means many things. It's more akin to the Tibetan word bardo. It's a state of consciousness, a realm, a zone. So Pacha, mm-hmm. state of consciousness, bardo, realm, and Kuti, reversal or transformation. So world reversal or cosmic transformation. This ceremonial space is specifically designed to be a catalyst for personal and planetary transformation. The rituals that are involved in this practice have been meticulously developed over millennia and are still practiced now. Of course, I have complemented and embellished many of the traditional practices with new discoveries in science and art and social justice and environmental activism and all of these things, to be able to be a much more poignant force for change in the world. Yet at their core, mm-hmm. the practice of the Pachacuti Mesa for the practitioner involves 5 things. Knowing these 5 things. Consciousness structures matter. Okay.
Yeah.
Language structures reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Ritual structures relationship. Mm. Nature structures purpose. Mm. Love structures life. So, to work, first of all, an altar any altar, the state of consciousness that is required before you even select the medicine pieces you want or determine what cosmovision or what, you know, lineage you resonate with most, is going to involve you knowing that your thoughts, your words, and your actions co-create the physical universe around you. And so it's very important to understand that it all begins within. Okay? And that's where stillness meditation, retreats, dream incubation, any practices that allow a respite from activity is vital, so that the material conditions around you are of beauty and of grace. Once you have that, then the language you use should be one that is always inspiring of sacred reciprocity and of compassion. And to that effect, I recommend news fasts and television fasts, but not YouTube or not Juicy Sleeping fasts at all, because you are promoting a language and a vision and an art that is transformative for the planet. So, you know, just like you would choose your foods wisely, except once in a while, the language you use should be done so as well. And so once you have a state of consciousness that's open to creation, and then a language that can articulate that openness, then your rituals are always going to create sacred relationship in the world between yourself and others, and yourself and the natural world. And then spend time in nature. That's our purpose. We are here on Earth. We're not going to go anywhere. Even if Apophis does have a near-Earth collision in 2029, as the NASA website anticipates, yes, there'll be a lot of shakeups, yet we have no right, in my humble opinion, to go ahead and start doing interplanetary voyages until we get our act together here on Earth. Mm-hmm. So let's restore our sacred trust with the natural world first. After that, then I feel our soul will be supported to explore other worlds beyond this one, at least material ones, because we can already explore many, many other planets, yeah, without having to get in on a, you know,
on a spaceship.
In a spaceship. This is spaceship Earth. So, and lastly, of course, love structures life. So Munai. Munai.
Munai is love?
Compassive feeling, unlimited love. So the Pachacuti Mesa, this, okay, excuse me, I'm losing.
No, this is so interesting.
Okay. This is what's called a banco maestro, or a master repository of forces and powers, shamanic forces and powers of creation, according to our curandero tradition. Also an altar mayor, a major altar. It's equivalent to any of the most revered and venerated temple sites on this planet, because it is configured specifically with the same geometrical patterning and numerical equivalency of the golden mean spiral and other diagonal numerical functions that are found throughout the world when it comes to more linear patterns. It's got 3 fields. The left side is...
Maybe you want to actually show it. We'll show it later on camera.
Yeah.
Let's stay to the before we get into more specifically yours. Is there some specific elements in our own altars if we do that? I hear you saying that it's really like objects that resonate with us that we should have on there with our hearts. There's no specifics.
Oh, there are specifics. There's a lot of specific traditions. Okay, first thing,
It's exciting conversation, isn't it?
The first thing you do is commune. The 5 C's of Pachacuti Mesa shamanism is commune. So you sit, you still, you enter into a state of common unity with everything, seen and unseen. Once you've communed, then the second C is consecrate. Then in our tradition we use Florida water or some other libation to give a drink to the mother. We use blue cornmeal to draw a circle. We use tobacco to do an equidistant cross into circles, forming the medicine shield, and a 3-leaf quinto, or if you don't have coca leaves, you use bay leaves to place it in the center. So you consecrate the ground, and then you place your manta or uncuña, your ceremonial cloth, over that ground that you've consecrated. Once you've consecrated the ground, you have given nourishment to the beings and powers that you entered into communion with, right? So you're saying thank you. Here's your food. You're honoring it with reverence. You place the ceremonial ground cloth on top of it, and there you have a basic ground, an altar ground, without anything on it. And if need be, that's all you need to do that gesture. And then you can call in all of the unseen, non-tangible forces to come and visit with you in that space. Yet, to take it to the level where we need it the most, then you have 5 directions: the south, the west, the north, the east, and the center. Now, it's not a medicine wheel. It is a golden mean spiral, a Fibonacci numerical progression. So it starts from the south and it curls around like a nautilus shell to the center. That's the pattern. Because in the south, you place a stone or a crystal representing the body, element earth. In the west, a shell or a bowl of water representing the element water, okay, the emotional body, physical body, emotional body. In the north, you place a feather, the spiritual body, element air, okay, or feathers. In the east, you place a candle, fire, element fire, mental body. All right? And as you curl inside, there you place your most favored shamanic artifact, or, you know, heirloom, or whatever is contains the most elevated expression of who you are in the world. We call it a misarumi. It goes right in the center, and that's soul, okay? Ether. So when you start in the south, and you raise the vibration, it's solid. The state of matter would be solid, to give you an example. And you start moving from south to west, raising that alchemical fire, that transmutational power through your songs, through your rituals, through your prayers. That solid begins to soften and turn more liquid, then gaseous, then plasma, into the mind, and finally to the Higgs boson condensate, or if you want, it's the 5th state of matter, known as ether. What the Large Hadron Collider is trying to discover in Geneva, Switzerland, you know, that huge atom smasher, they're trying to discover the God particle. It's called the Higgs boson particle. And so what they don't realize is that our alchemical ancestors and our shamanic peoples knew of this. They called it ether. It's what astrophysicists are talking about in terms of the antimatter or dark space, dark stuff. There's more of it than there is anything material in terms of vibrational density. That is the place where everything is accessible by going into that void. And so what happens when you work the Pachacuti Mesa and you move in that direction, you move from a state of physical awareness and progressively refine your vibrational frequency and sensitivity to the soul body. Once you have awakened the soul body, or the nuna or sombra, then it's very easy to do shamanic journeys, to exit through your crown, through your brow, your higher centers become activated, and as you well know, shamanism is all about soul. It's all about soul. So it becomes a very animated, populated world when you awaken the soul body. Your dreams, your daydreams, or ruminations, and your waking dream, this become one and the same. So there's no real transition when you come out of a sleeping dream into this one, or when you envision what is in the future for your life. That's called walking your medicine, right? When all three dreams are seamless. That's the advantage of living through soul. I hope this helps a little.
It is amazing. This conversation is very, very juicy.
Well, thank you for your receptivity and deep passion for these things, because as you can tell, I have no juice for them.
I feel we could do this a lot more. And thank you for this moment. Really, thank you. This was very exciting. And let's see now. Let's check your altar out. If you're, thank you for opening it up. We're gonna take the camera, and thank you so much, because I know this is the first time that this is happening, and I really feel like it's definitely a blessing for the planet that you're doing this right now. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and you are an extraordinary interviewer. I know I can go on rambling for a while, and I felt very welcomed by your heart, sister. Thank you. It's good. You're doing a good service on the world.
Thank you.
So if people do want to learn more about this, they can, apprentice in this tradition. I teach all over the place. They can check out my website or whatever.
Yeah.
If they want to apprentice in it,
This is a wonderful invitation. Is there something else you would like to say to close this?
There's something coming in here. Commune, consecrate, create, cooperate, connect. Those are the 5 C's of Pachacuti Mesa shamanism in terms of the ritual operations. Then we have the 5 directions or attributes. Yankai in the south, right action, industriousness, diligent work. Munai in the west, the place of the heart, of the emotional body, which is unlimited love, deep compassive feeling. Yuyai, these are Quechua words, in the north, which means spirit or disembodied awareness. Yachai in the east, which means wisdom, that knowledge beyond intellect. And Hunyui in the center, which means to unite. So if you move from the body as right action to the heart as compassionate feeling, to the spirit, to the mind, and to the center where the soul is, that is unifying of everything, it translates into this: Yankai, Munai, Yuyai, Yachai, Hunyui. Right action born of compassionate spiritual wisdom unites. Right action born of compassionate spiritual wisdom unites. That's what I would like to end our interview saying.
Thank you for this delicious moment.
Thank you, sister. And I usually speak with my eyes closed all the time, so it's not that we've been lucky that I've kept them open this amount.
Either way, it's good. It's good to see your eyes and be with you in the eyes too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this precious moment. Much love, my beautiful co-creators from delicious Florida.
Bye.
Bye.
Hatun wilka charapawata koyusuyu hapukuna. Hatun wilka hiyari hawayak nana Pachakuti Mesa rikhuri tirakuna aukikuna malkikuna machula aulanchiskuna eso. Bien llamados, bien invocados y bien evocados todos los encantos, calicantos, sombras y buenos remedios de este altar mayor, de este banco curandero. En este buen momento de gloria, con estos buenos invitados, despertada sea toda la bondad y todas las medicinas, todas las virtudes, toda la buena vista en virtud de mi banco curandero. En nombre de mi maestro don Celso Rojas Palomino, sabio y tito, con este pitazo de levantamiento y de iluminación, presente esté, guiando e inspirando mi labor de camasquero en este buen momento. Bien levantado, bien florecido, bien despertado, todas las bendiciones de este campo, medio campo de equilibrio, campo de poder, ese campo maestro curandero, en donde el Tayacha Jesucristo Nazareno, nacido del vientre de la mamacha María, como ejemplo y arquetipo de ese servicio sin pretensión, sin espera de remuneración, sin ningún deseo de fama o de fortalecer su propia vocación. En este momento su ejemplo esté presente en las almas de todos ellos, en mi banco maestro. Que así sea, así será, Señor. Bien levantado. levantado, bien florecido, bien despertado, bien iluminado todas mis artes de mi ajuar, de mi campo ganadero, esas artes oriundas de todas las tradiciones espirituales del mundo. Este campo ganadero que me sirva como fuente de curación de todo eso que haya pasado en el remoto pretérito, curando toda enfermedad, todo daño, todo malestar. A ellos con sus artes presentes aquí, eso pido en honor a mi maestro y mentor, don Celso Rojas Palomino, que así sea y así será. Bien florecido, bien despertado, bien empoderado mis artes de mi campo justiciero, campo de esa maestría mística, en donde lo que todavía no ha pasado será sustentado y será bien guiado y presentado a todas esas posibilidades que todavía no se han visto sobre esta santa tierra, Pachamamita linda. Campo de mago, campo de místico, campo de curandero, los tres unidos en este buen momento será con esta campanada de Anrom, bien despertada en su gloria y en su vista en virtud. Estas buenas medicinas, citadas de nombres declaradas de origen en nacimiento y reveladas en su belleza, bien florecidas sean.